Hello, everybody. Russian Batman here. And there's just been this thing on the internet. There's been this playlist of called One Villainous Scene, where a whole bunch of YouTubers were invited to look at a certain scene with a villain from a movie, TV show, whatever, and analyze it and really see what makes it tick. So I wanted to give that a try. I wanted to try One Villainous Scene. I wasn't formally invited for anything or nothing like that, but I wanted to give it a shot. And what movie did I decide to do one villainous scene for? Well, none other than... And I decided for the movie Rango to analyze a scene with, of course, Rattlesnake Jake, one of the most prominent antagonists in the film, even though there are some others. But I would like to analyze a scene with Rattlesnake Jake. So, without further ado, this is One Villainous Scene. So about Rango, if you are unaware, Rango is a 2011 film made by Nickelodeon, surprisingly. And it stars Johnny Depp as Rango, this chameleon that basically gets lost in the desert. And it's a movie about identity and, discovering oneself, which kind of makes sense to put a chameleon in that role. A creature that is known for camouflaging and, becoming something that, it really isn't. So, yes, and the scene I would like to analyze with Rattlesnake Jake is not actually, the end battle with him, but I would like to analyze the first scene you ever see Rattlesnake Jake. The scene that introduces him and why it's important in the context of the film. And to explain that, I would have to go early on in the film to kind of explain why this scene is important. So the movie kind of starts off with Rango getting lost in the desert, and he goes to this town called Dirt. Now, up to this point, Rango's name isn't even Rango. He doesn't have a name. He is nameless. He's a nobody. He even tells himself early on in the movie, back when he was in a cage, right? Because he was like this pet, that he can be anyone, right? He wants. So in this bar, he gives himself the name Rango after seeing it on a bottle of cactus juice. And he creates this whole persona for himself, right? Rango. And to explain further, I see there's this reoccurring thing, right? To explain a little bit, there's this Pixar book with rules of Pixar movies and the rules Pixar abides by, right? And one of them had to do with lucky situations or situations that really don't require the character's skill. And in a situation where a character gets extremely lucky, right, where only luck drives something, or some character being clumsy or whatnot, some random incident, usually it gets the characters into worse situations and not better ones. In fact, this is why actually a lot of people really don't like the character of Jar Jar Binks from the Star Wars prequels. Because in that movie, Jar Jar Binks would do a lot of wacky, stuff that really was just a whole bunch of luck, and he would basically get his kind of way and benefit everyone, right? He would destroy a whole bunch of droids by, slipping on a banana peel or something, right? And a lot of people didn't like this because this wasn't good payoff, right? That he didn't overcome anything. He just kind of got lucky and the plot made it work out for him at the end, right? Well, you see this kind of idea pop in Rango, where there are a lot of scenes where it makes you think that they're going to go the Jar Jar Binks route, but they actually go the Pixar route. To prove this point, when he gives himself this name of Rango, right, some guy asks him if he was the guy who killed them Jenkins brothers, right? And luckily, no one actually knows who, at least in this bar, no one actually knows who killed the Jenkins brothers, so they don't know for sure. So he proclaims that he did kill them Jenkins brothers. And to add a little bit of spice at the end, he says that he killed them with only one bullet. And this is a theme that keeps on repeating, the theme of Rango using one bullet. So you think, okay, he got lucky, and this is a good thing, right? But then another character proclaims that there were 7 Jenkins brothers. So now Rango's in a bit of a pickle, right? He has to explain away how he was able to kill 7 people with a single bullet. But luckily, he gets himself out of the scenario by making up this ludicrous story, and everyone believes him, right? See him get unlucky, I would say, and then getting himself out of that unlucky scenario. Immediately after that bar scene, he challenges someone to a shooting contest, right? A standoff. And he's clearly not skilled. He does not know how to use a gun at all. Besides the fact that he proclaimed he did, he does not. He clearly does not in this scene. He's dropping all the bullets and stuff, right? So he's about to go on the shoot off. But luckily, the 2 guys that the guy who's about to, do the shoot off with runs away. You think, okay, this is lucky. This is clearly a lucky scenario. Then you turn around. Turns out it was the Hawk. Now the Hawk, up to this point in the movie, has been seen before, and it's been seen as this kind of unstoppable force of nature. It's clear it's way bigger than everyone else. It can't talk, and it's clearly, something very deadly and something to be feared, right? And he runs into it in the broad daylight, and he's the only one out there. So, again, out of sheer luck, he runs around the town, he escapes the Hawk, but like I said, out of sheer luck, he ends up killing the Hawk with just 1 bullet. Again, just 1 bullet, and you're thinking, okay, this is clearly a Jar Jar Binks scenario. He killed the Hawk with a single bullet. Killed the unstoppable force, the closest thing we have to an antagonist in the movie, this Hawk. But, turns out he was wrong. And this is the first mention, I believe, of Rattlesnake Jake in the film. Another character proclaims that because the Hawk is dead, there's nothing stopping from Rattlesnake Jake from coming into town, because the Hawk was the only thing Rattlesnake Jake feared. So now, you can see it again. You can see the luck starting to run out. Also, when Rattlesnake Jake is mentioned, Rango proclaims that Rattlesnake Jake is his brother, and that he would take shots of his venom. Clearly more lies to make him look better, right? And then, near the climax, I think, of the second act, right, you have Rango's there, right, in dirt. The water's gone, seems all hope is lost. But when all hope is lost, Rango reminds them. He reminds them, as long as the sign of dirt still stands, they have hope. But then, the sign is completely shot down. Who shot it down? Well, none other than Rattlesnake Jake. Now, Rattlesnake Jake's appearance alone, threatens people, right? Just looking at his character design, right? He is this rattlesnake. He dwarfs everyone. He has venom, and instead of having a rattler, he has a Gatling gun at the other end, right? He's clearly, and his voice is that classic Southern, the Western, intimidating villain voice, and it's very iconic, right? And everything about him is to make him, scary.
Go to hell.
Where do you think I come from? Look into my eyes. I want to see you die.
Right. And when he first, and he's also, another thing that makes him great is from the first scene you see him, he is the anti-Rango, right? While Rango inspires hope in everyone, Rattlesnake Jake quite literally shoots it down, from that first scene. When Rango pretends to be this tough guy, pretends to be this badass, while Rattlesnake Jake is the badass that is feared in the West, right? So it's this very clear opposite views, and Rattlesnake Jake knows his lies, right? This is the point in the film where Rango's luck completely runs out. Rattlesnake Jake is quite literally Rango's karma in this, right? Where all these lies kind of pay off one, by one, right? Pay off in a negative way. Rattlesnake Jake first approaches Rango. He proclaims sarcastically that he is his brother and offers him a drink of his venom, knowing full well that he can't, right? And he continues to taunt him and to expose him to the rest of the people, expose all of his lies, expose that he probably didn't kill them Jenkins brothers, and the fact that he isn't even from the West, that he is from some other place. And most importantly of all, right, he brings up the one last bullet thing, where he gives Rango his gun, and he gives him the gun with only one bullet, and he makes Rango put it up to his head, right? And this is probably one of the best parts, probably the best part of the scene, where he makes him put the gun up to his head, and he asks him if he has killer in his eye, right? And you can clearly see Rango is scared. He has a lot of fear, and in Rattlesnake Jake, he says, "You got killer in your eye?" I don't see it.
Pull the trigger. You got killer in your eyes, son. I don't see it.
Basically, completely ruining his persona he had, exposing him to be a coward. And this is the scene that makes Rango cross the threshold, the highway that a lot of people see to represent death, right? And a lot of people see Rattlesnake Jake to also, in a way, represent death. I think Rattlesnake Jake represents karma, and this is, the highway represents death. He crosses the threshold, and this is the scene that causes Rango to realize, that he isn't this tough guy. And he goes out, and then, this, gives him the whole scene where he interacts with this kind of fake Clint Eastwood, and the movie kind of continues. But Rattlesnake Jake causes the lowest low in the film. Not just for Rango, but for the entire town of Dirt. They still don't have water, and they've lost the one thing that gave all the people of Dirt hope, was lost at the hands of Rattlesnake Jake. And to go back to that scene, to that part of the scene where Rango has the gun up to him, not only is that the lowest point of Rango's character, but it's kind of an echo to the highest point that happens just shortly after. This scene is almost replicated to a T, where at the end battle, Rango has his gun pointed right at Rattlesnake Jake, and he sees this, and he tells him to pull the trigger. You don't got the nerve. But then Rango looks him with no fear in his eyes and tells him, "Try me." This one line, you could visibly see it causes maybe not fear in Rattlesnake Jake, but recognition that Rango has changed. That Rango, because of Rattlesnake Jake, truly changed. Because up to this point, all the change Rango has done is artificial. It's fake. But because of Rattlesnake Jake being who he is, causes Rango to change and causes him to go through his arc, which I think is the pivotal thing you want from a villain. You want the villain to fundamentally change, not fundamentally, but to change the hero's output, right? To give him a little bit of whiplash of what kind of the real scenario they are in. And this is why I love Rattlesnake Jake's character and the movie Rango, because Rattlesnake Jake not only is a badass, but he causes Rango to change in a fundamental way. So that is my one villainous scene, and the scene I think is most important that Rattlesnake Jake has. Now, there are actually a lot of other really cool parts. Like, he has a lot of really badass lines. There's, I think, one part where, there's the "I tip my hat from you, from one legend to another." That's been kind of a meme, but that part's also really cool. There's also the part where I think he's strangling that one lady, and the lady tells him, I forget the lady character's name, but he tells him that, "Oh, go to hell," but then he's like, "Honey, where do you think I come from?" It's all great stuff, and I'm not, my terrible accent is not doing it justice, But seriously, guys, go check out the 2011 film Rango if you haven't. It is, in my opinion, an amazing film, and you should all go check it out. But also, yeah. So I'm trying to get this video on the, like I said, I mentioned this is play. I'll leave the playlist to the one villainous scene in the description of this video. If you guys want to go check out some of the others that have been done, I'm actually going to try to get this video in the playlist. So if you're actually seeing this video from the playlist, come check out my channel if you want. It is mostly a Lego channel. So yeah, it's not actually film stuff and film kind of essay format videos. So I'm sorry about that. But if you do, if you do like Lego and you know someone who likes Lego, come check out my channel. I've made a custom Rango. So that's cool. Maybe I'll make a rattlesnake Jake someday, after this video. But yeah, no, please just go check Rango. And most importantly, just have a nice day. And if you could like the video and share and maybe subscribe, that would be pretty good. I'm just saying. But yeah, like I said, just have a nice day. And yeah, have a nice one. Ciao.